Hi, shalom, blessed people. I'm happy to have you here. Money is an interesting conversation. If I were to ask you, what does your relationship with money look like in form of love? Is it one of those ex-boyfriend, girlfriend relationship where both of you are parallel? Is it one of those friends with benefits kind of relationships where every now and then you get some good time? Is it one of those that are like a marriage? And if it is like a marriage, is it a good marriage or is it a bad marriage? Is your friendship or is your love with money in form of marriage one of those marriages where both your heart and your mind are in one place? Or is it one of those whereby you're keeping up appearances? That is a question for you to ponder about. My name is Paul Businge. I'm excited to have you here. I'm a financial wellness advocate, and it's something that I love. I welcome you to Pesa Talk, where everything money is discussed. So today under personal finance, we are going to delve into the core or the foundation of personal finance. I always hear conversations around you should be saving, you should be investing, you should be doing very many things, you should be traveling, and then the people we normally tell these things are looking at us with this thing of, but from where? The question has always been, from where should I be saving from where should I be investing from where should I be putting aside money to travel from? So today we touch the from where, which is budgeting. So we're going to dive a little bit into how do we then get to know our from where question in quotes. So budgeting is a very core thing to personal finance. Budgeting is the first step you take in terms of trying to diagnose your financial problem or your financial gift, for lack of a better word. So what you do then if you're trying to achieve budgeting as a framework for you to be able to be financially independent? So one of the things that you should be looking at is have the end in mind. So tag your budgeting journey, tag your first step into financial wellness to something that you have as what you'd call an end in mind, or for lack of a better word, call it a goal. It would be hard for you to have the discipline to keep budgeting month in, month out if you do not know what exactly it is you want to achieve at the end of this journey. So one of the things you should be able to look at is, one, are you trying to see if you can put aside some money for saving, and that's why you're budgeting to try and see where your leakages are? Or are you trying to see if you can put away maybe some money to travel at the end of the year? I mean, it's Q1, and it would be a nice thing for you to know that maybe in December you can afford going to Mombasa, you can afford going to Zanzibar, or even Dubai, come to think of it. So once you have the end in mind as you start this journey of budgeting, you're going to realize that you're then going to stick to habits, because what we're trying to achieve here is to grow a habit of budgeting, and budgeting is going to help us track where our monies are going and where our monies come from. So it's very important for you to know that what exactly are you trying to achieve, what is your end in mind. So for you to be able to achieve that, one, we shall start by tracking our expenses. It's very important that sometimes we go into a weekend with 500,000. Interestingly, on a Sunday, you're asking yourself, I had 500,000 on Friday evening, but I can't seem to find where 350 has gone. So what you're left with is 150,000. And the reason you're able to be in that position or have that kind of conversation with yourself on Sunday is because, one, you didn't track your expenses and you didn't plan for them. So if you went into a weekend, for example, with 500,000 and you knew that you are planning to buy, for example, groceries worth 150,000, you're planning maybe to take your car, you're planning to do a haircut, you're planning maybe to do a spa, and then the entire budget goes to about 340,000. So you'd know that at the end of the weekend, you're going to be having about 160,000 left worth of your money. But eventually it is where you find yourself in a state whereby you can't account for where your pennies have gone. It's because you are not tracking your expenses. So once you know what you want to achieve in this budgeting framework, you have the end in mind, you're able to track your expenses. The third thing is you should be able to evolve your budget. Your budget shouldn't be static. Even as a country, every June, every financial year, we go into a budgeting process. Right now, the budget is being done, and in June, it's going to be read out to the country. Look at the entities we work for. We do budgeting in the month of September that informs our expenditure for the year that follows. So you as a person, you cannot say you operate on a static budget. You should have an evolving budget. And the reason you should have an evolving budget is because your income keeps evolving. Some months will be good months where you actually get in more inflows. Some months will be bad months where you actually get lesser inflows, where you need to cut on your budget. So please do not have a static budget. I'll give you a tip that I adopted while I was a little bit younger, maybe some 4-6 years back. I used to do sticky notes on my mirror. So your dressing mirror is one of those places that you visit every day. It's one of those places that you visit every week. It would be a nice place for you to have a reminder, constant reminder of what it is that you are trying to get in check, which is the budget. So I would have a sticky note. I used to have very many of those where I would list down the things I'm going to buy for the month. Then if anything comes up for the week, I'll still go ahead and list down some of those things that I intend to buy for the week. What that would do for me then would be that, one, I do not find myself having excess cash at any one point. I am one of the most cashless people. People around me know it. I keep as little cash as possible because, one, I want to manage my expenditure on unexpected or unplanned things. So if you're able to do that, adopt my model. For example, if it may work for you, you would start with baby steps where you're able to have sticky notes. Then you get to monitor that in the month of February, I spent 400,000. In the month of March, I spent 380,000. Maybe my target for the month of April should be to spend 280,000 on these items. So you keep track of them because you are then looking at them as a dashboard. Yeah. So the fourth and the last thing would be to set limits on your expenditure. Everything that takes out your money should have a limit. I mean, we've seen this work for a country, we've seen it work for the entities that we work for. So how can you adopt setting limits for your expenditures? There is a famous budgeting rule, the 50-30-20 rule. If you've not heard of it, or if this is your first time to hear about the 50-20-30 rule, what that framework gives you is that you should be able to spend 50% of your income in a month on your needs. And needs are the things you may maybe not be able to do without. And those include, not limited to, include rent, include transport, include your groceries, utilities, and things like that. So if you're able to look at, for example, a person who earns $1 million and you're able to spend 500,000 on your rent, groceries, and all these other items that we look at as needs, then you get to look at your remaining 30% going under wants. And wants, in a nutshell, are the things that drive us. Wants are the things that make us wake up every day from 5 to 5 to go to work. You should be able to buy a nice watch. You should be able to buy yourself a nice shirt. You should be able to take yourself out to a nice restaurant. You should be able to take out your family to the movies. Those are wants. Without those, life becomes meaningless. So if you're spending 30% of your income, total income, on wants, to be a good thing for you to, you know that you've set a limit that 30% is then what you're going to spend on wants, 50% is what you're spending on your needs, and then the 20% is what you'll be spending on savings. And savings, again, cut across. For example, you have a personal pension plan. Maybe you have a life insurance plan that would still be under your savings. Maybe you have these monthly investment clubs where you contribute a certain percentage of your money. So you should be able to see that 20% goes into that piggy bank, 20% goes into paying back maybe your loans. You've taken out a debt, you've taken out a loan, and you have a debt to pay back. So the entire 20% should be the limit under the framework of the 50-30 rule. However, maybe just a disclaimer, some people would love to reverse this. Some people do not pay rent. Maybe you are staying in your parents' house, your parents have an apartment, your parents have rentals, and you actually paying, you're staying there, and you're not incurring any rent costs. So the 50 may not work for you. You may maybe end up shifting the 50 into savings. So you get to have the 50 go into your savings, and then you have the 30 or the 20 come into your needs, because then for you, you're incurring lesser costs, you have lesser operating costs, you're only incurring groceries and upkeep of your house or your household if you have a family, but you're not paying rent. So what I'm trying to say is that you can mix and match this rule of 50, 30, 20 to match what exactly it is that works for you. So there are people who are saying, okay, fine, we do all these things, but we still don't seem to understand where our money goes. So of course, as a country, we have a very bad savings culture, and the numbers that have been shared by NSSF, I think in 2023, do not say otherwise. You have, as of 2023, you have about 83% of the entire people into the fund, which accounted for about 1.2 and something million people, having less than 10%, less than 10 million in their savings under the National Social Security Fund, which is not an impressive number. And then you have another 12% fall between 10 million to 5 million as a savings balance for all the years they've worked. That is what they have. So right now you're seeing, where do you fall, which bracket do you fall under, and then you have about another 2% fall within 50 to 100 million, which account for about 34,000 Ugandans that were employed as of 2023. Then you have another 2% accounting for about 30, the other is 36, and this is 34. So you have another 34,000 having balances above 100 million. So as you can see, those numbers are really not good. They don't tell a good story about what our savings culture is, but again, it speaks to what it is that we lay the foundation on, which is budgeting. So maybe you're seated there, you've tried doing sticky notes, you have an Excel, you've seen a financial coach, you've spoken to friends, you've gotten accountability partners, and this still doesn't work for you. So I'm going to share with you just a few tips in terms of one of the areas where I think you should be able to see that, for example, if you revisited your framework under budgeting, you may maybe get some place where you may squeeze out a little bit of money. One of those places is you need to reduce or minimize wastage, and wastage being using your groceries at home, for example, as one of the areas where you've been buying 5 kilos of rice, but you also notice that most of it ends up in the dustbin. So it would be nice to have that conversation with your spouse, with your maid, and tell them, you know what, I have also observed that whereas we buy 5 kilos, the budget is we use 5 kilos of rice in a month. I've also noticed that half of that goes into the dustbin. Same applies to matoke, same applies to the beef, same applies to the beans. So you reduce expenditure if you're able to track and reduce that bit, which is a constant under your needs. If you're able to reduce that expenditure, because then you're touching each of the 3 things that you're supposed to spend your money on. If you're able to reduce that, you'd find that you're maybe saving a little bit of money, because you're buying lesser things, you're buying lesser cooking oil, you're buying less kilos of rice, you're buying less kilos of beef, and you're buying less liters of milk. So you get to save a little bit of that money, because we are trying to look for where can we get every little penny from our budget. The second is going to be reducing on luxuries, small luxuries. I term them as small luxuries because oftentimes when we spend on these things, because they are little monies that we spend on them all the time, we do not get to notice that we're actually spending a lot of money. Say for example, you buy data, or what you would prefer to call as data. You buy data every week worth 28,000 on a certain provider. But then there's an option of, for example, another provider that we know in the market, say like a mobile, that will give you 30,000 and will give you 30 GB in a month. So you're spending 28,000 times 5 in a month that has 5 weeks, or times 4 weeks. In an eventuality that actually the 28 doesn't take you for a week, you're spending about 56,000 on data. If you multiply that by 4, you're spending 200,000 on data. So if you're able to reduce that expenditure, look for a cheaper option that you can use. Maybe look for a router that whenever you're home, you go off your mobile data and you're able to use the home Wi-Fi. That would be one of the areas that you'd be touching their luxuries, because I mean, you can live without all that much data if you chose to. The other option around that area of luxuries would be, some of us bought the famous DSTV. We are paying the highest bouquet. We do an 8 to 5 p.m. job. We maybe do not have a family. We don't have kids that watch Nickelodeon. We do not have kids that watch Jim Jam, but we are paying for the highest bouquet just to enjoy our favorite match on a Saturday. Would you want to rethink that decision? Do you think you're doing the best? Do you think you're enjoying that bouquet to the maximum? So what about you reduce or you downgrade from that expensive bouquet that you're paying, such that you're able to save? For example, if you downgrade it to the bouquet that comes before, or the two before, just for you to watch basic news and know what is happening. On Saturday you watch the ball maybe at a hotel while taking a cup of tea, which is 10,000, you get to save about 250,000. So you get to touch a little bit on that area. You downgrade. Maybe you pay Netflix that you don't watch every month, annual. You're paying all these costs. You have all these things that you've subscribed to that are taking your money, and you're actually not utilizing them to full capacity. It's now time for you, since you're in crisis mode. I mean, you get to look at how our gadgets, for example, operate. When they're in crisis mode, when the battery is low, you go into low battery saver mode. You go into if a country is in crisis mode, we cut expenditure. If our companies are in crisis mode, they cut expenditure. So the question is, who are you who doesn't want to cut your expenditure? And then the third is going to be trying to reduce on your movement on transport costs. So how can you do that? I have two ideas. One, if you're the kind of family that has 2 cars in your compound, you come to town every day with your spouse, you go back home with your spouse, you guys are driving 2 cars, each of your cars is at 2.0 cc, you're spending on an average 35,000 on fuel, you may be staying Chanja, so you're spending 70,000 as 2 people on fuel to go to town every day. In 5 days, you're looking at about 350,000. What if you decided to use 1 car in a certain week? You know, you'd reduce your costs by half, because I mean, both your cars are fueled, both your cars have maintenance costs. So if you made a decision where you're saying, we are dropping 1 car for this week just for us to be able to put aside some more money, it would be one of those areas. Okay, let's say you're the real Muntua 1C, you just have 1 car and you stay alone. Maybe you're a bachelor, maybe you're just starting out your family, and you stay in Nigeria. So if you're staying in a place like Nigeria, I would love to believe that a taxi from Nigeria to town would be averagely between 2,000 to 3,000 at peak hours. So what if you try the option of using public means? You just need to wake up a little bit earlier, at 5, maybe 5:30 or 6, such that you get the first taxi to town, and by 7:30 you're in office and no one will know that you actually came in a taxi. Actually, no one cares. Oftentimes we think the environment around us is watching, noticing what car you're driving, how you came to work. You maybe even slept hungry, but you came to work. No one actually cares and no one knows. So if you tried to reduce on your transport costs, because we are touching on those places where there's a need, but you're trying to say, how do I touch into a bit of my 50% to try and make sure that I'm either living within my means or I am living at par? Because oftentimes, if you find yourself in a scenario whereby you're not living at par, you're incurring costs, you're incurring debt, because you then have to borrow to be able to finance the extra expenditure that you envision. The fourth is going to be stay home. Yes, I said it. Stay home. It's nice. It's a nice feeling. Oftentimes when you think about, I mean, today work has ended early, it's 5, shouldn't I maybe go to Chadi and do 1 or 3 sticks and maybe 4 beers, and then you'll find there some chick maybe that you like, maybe you find there your friends and you're sponsoring them on beers that you didn't plan for that month. And remember, we are trying to clean house. We are operating in crisis mode. So one of the other things you should be able to do is you should be able to stay home where necessary. Please do not have unnecessary movements that are going to make you incur costs that are unexpected and unplanned for. In an event that things are not working out for you after work, just go straight home. Over weekends, stay home, only leave when you're going to church with your offering, and God will understand. If all those tips that we've shared today here on Pesa Talk do not work for you, please pray. There's nothing that goes above prayer. You can go on your knees. If your problem has been budgeting, you can go on your knees and pray to God to give you better wisdom, to open for you a better door, to open for you a better vision, for you to be able to know what exactly is eating your money. So as a Christian, as a Muslim, watching this podcast, I would advise that where all the things that we've shared, you've seen a financial advisor, you've spoken to a financial coach, you've spoken to your family, to your friends, and things are not working out, please pray. At the end of the day, God says, cast your burdens unto me because I care for you. So at the end of the day, you should be able to see the hand of God working on you. So those are my tips for today. Thank you so much for being part of Pesa Talk. We have been discussing budgeting. Make sure to subscribe to this channel. We have a WhatsApp channel, Pesa Talk. We are on TikTok, Pesa Talk. We are on all the social media platforms as Pesa Talk. Special thanks to my production crew from Vadi Media, our distribution and marketing partners, Brandforge Marketing Agency, for making this possible, for making sure that this reaches you today that is watching it. Until next time, I'm out.